What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we're providing you a state of the market and stock picks for May 9th, 2023. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing as we do provide daily and weekly updates to get you prepared for the day and the week ahead in this glorious market. So today was a pretty quiet day as we are coming essentially kind of off of post Powell. We're coming off of post Apple and non farms. Now, we learned a lot from last week. This week is essentially the theme of this week has really been about the debt ceiling. We're starting to get a little bit more information. After hours, what we had was Yellen talking about essentially that we could be running out of money as soon as June 1st. Now, this is something I talked about with the debt ceiling is that, yes, they like to play essentially chicken on essentially kicking the can down the road for the debt ceiling. It's obviously going to happen at some point. It's just they like to wait till the last minute. The problem is if they wait too long, what could potentially happen is we get downgraded, and if we get downgraded, that means we can, we can't borrow as much, and those kind of issues as well. So that's the last thing we want. And the last time that happened, essentially the market came down, crashing down. So, and as of right now, as you can see, like the markets is pretty flat. Like there's no reason to put risk on, and there is a lot of reasons to not put risk on. So the market just essentially just waiting. It's in a holding pattern. Again, you are getting into, you're getting out of earnings mode. You're getting more into essentially just that lull period in May, where everybody just kind of sells because people go away during the summertime, and so you don't really see a lot of action around this time. But you still have banking crisis going on. You still have, like I said, the debt ceiling. You have a lot of other things that are currently circling around. We do have core on Friday or Wednesday, excuse me, that will be important. But ultimately, I think right now what we're waiting for is not only the core. Again, the core I don't think is going to be a big a huge mover, considering that there's not a lot really going on at this point. Any kind of data is really going to move, especially if it's extremely low. If we drop down to 4, that could be huge. Or if we push back up, that would also be huge, and also draw a lot of fear into the market. So again, right now, we're just kind of waiting again in a holding pattern. There's not really much to go on as far as this week. It's more digestion and more kind of getting out of earnings mode at this point. The market did try to rip this morning, but that failed pretty quickly. We did get a survey this morning as well, which was essentially saying that it's kind of gauging the credit crunch and understand that the way the loans are currently sitting are extremely essentially in a bad position, right? Like banks just aren't letting people borrow, right? Interest rates are so high, people can't even qualify for them. And that's why they're trying to pass essentially this, especially from the housing, to try to get people on houses with low credit scores to provide incentives. But right now, again, there's a lot of if scenarios that we've always talked about to this point. But again, the biggest thing being the debt ceiling. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. Like I said, any overnight session could really change things quite dramatically. But then we'll go from there. So like I said today, technical wise, we didn't really do a lot. Again, still watching 4200 and the 4050. This is the range we're going to play for now until we get some sort of news that's going to break us out of here. Like I said, I think the probability is still low that something or something bad would happen that would cause us to go lower. I think we're just on a ticking time bomb, and considering that rates were high, even if they paused them, would still be just a ticking time bomb until something else happen. And so it's just waiting for that specifically. Now, Bitcoin again rejected off the 31K. It's again not making any kind of headway. We'll see what happens here. I know there's some news about Bitcoin and essentially NFTs on Bitcoin as well, that kind of drew some potential panic as fees are getting more expensive to mine Bitcoin because of ordinals. Well, ordinals are the NFTs on essentially you can scribe NFTs onto Bitcoin. So now with all these ordinals on there, now they're getting more higher transaction fees, and people are getting a little upset about that. So we did sell off today. I don't know, or primarily yesterday, but we'll see if anything does happen today. and then we'll go from there. Gold, again, still high. We'll see if it can break. Well, ultimately, we want it to break is the 195. Right now, you're currently in this top zone of the 188, but we're seeing this can break out and continue to push up. Again, more recessionary concerns if gold starts to run. So that's what we're really kind of watching here, and considering there's a lot pointing to that. I think it's only a matter of time there as well. Once those numbers start truly reflecting. Tesla did do a bit of a selling off today from the massive pump it had the other day. Question is can it hold above the 169 tomorrow, or will it break over essentially the 174 and potentially fill this gap back up to essentially 178? So we'll see how this opens tomorrow. I think it could be a break, a retest, fill the gap, and then start selling more lower again. We're going to have to really see what happens. Again, it's all about timing on a lot of these things, so we'll see what happens there. Palantir did extremely well when it comes to its earnings today. After hours, it absolutely crushed it. Like I said, I've been accumulating down around this 730 mark for minutes, and really I don't have the position I want, so I really want this thing to come back down, to be honest. And like I said, if the market sentiment changes and this thing starts to do really bad, the market general sentiment starts to do really bad, this thing won't hold up, I don't think, very much. But again, you never know. So at this point, we'll wait and see. But again, I do really want this to the downside. The longer we can keep it, hopefully back under 8 would be great, because then just accumulation. But again, it all depends on the market and the sentiment. If we do break up to the upside, I think we at least get into the next 100-point range. At that point, again, I think you're just waiting for something big to happen is what we're doing. And I think that's what the market's trying to wait for, is that one event to happen before it starts pushing back up. Or obviously, I think we would have been up by now, but we're not. So we shall see there. BA finally starting to show not really any weakness. It still needs to break below this. It needs a solid candle below the 193. But we'll see if that happens. Again, if we start getting more recessionary numbers, again, that could be troublesome. Let's see. We got JPM still sitting here in this box, essentially around the 136. This thing needs to break and try to fill this gap. It tried to fill the gap, but only got about halfway before it started getting bought up around the 131. So we'll see if this thing can get down to at least the 123. Again, I think you're going to backfill at least these two gaps all the way down, at least from there to the 126. And then again, I think you're going to backfill this as well and get us back down on 108 eventually. Again, the biggest thing is just being patient, especially we are just kind of getting out of the big earnings cycle. And then once that finishes, then we go from there. Goldman Sachs still looking really weak. It does need to break the 318. So we'll watch that. Again, your high target zone here is 347. But I think this is going to potentially break and come back down here to the 303. But right now it's floating in the zone. So we'll see. Bank of America back down to the lows. We'll see how long it stays here. If it does push up, you're kind of looking at that 30 mark. Playing from essentially the 30 to the 27. So kind of watching those ranges there. As far as anything else, I'm not really, again, watching anything. It is only Monday. It is starting to get during that. You're starting to slow down as far as the pace of the markets. There will be some news. It's not really sure how much impact it's going to have unless you start really getting outside of expectations by a lot. But the ultimate thing is, I think we're waiting for is just news. We're waiting for something to break. We will just raise another 25-point basis move. Another big key thing is to be watching for FOMC minutes. Those are things I need to look up and see when that next meeting is. But I believe it's not, if not next week, the week after that. But right now, this week is primarily just banking news and core, and then we'll see what happens from there. So if you made it this far, I do appreciate you. Go ahead and drop a like. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.